Hey, Bookstranding's here, and today we have the guest, and the guest is Elevation by Stephen King. This book is special because I bought this book about 3 years ago, and last Saturday I just decided to give this book a chance, and you know what? It surprised me a lot. You want to know why? Stay here and let's dive in. Elevation by Stephen King. Let's go. And I don't want to approach this as a summary or a breakdown of the plot because the plot itself is actually very minimal. Instead, I want to talk about how this book felt to me while I was reading it and after I finished it. When I picked it up, I knew it was short and that already changed my expectations. With Stephen King, we often think of long, immersive novels that slowly build tension and develop complex relationships over hundreds of pages. Elevation is the opposite of that. It's compact, direct, and very, very focused. And because of that, the experience of reading it feels different from most of his major works. The central idea is simple and slightly surreal, but what interested me was not the mystery behind it. What stayed with me was the emotional tone of the book. It doesn't try to overwhelm you, it doesn't try to shock you. Instead, it moves quietly, almost gently, and I found that surprising in a good way. For me, this book felt like a reflection on weight, not just physical weight, but emotional and social weight. While reading it, I kept thinking about how much time we spent holding onto small conflicts, small frustrations, and quiet resentments that don't actually improve our lives, right? The story doesn't scream this message at your face, but subtly suggests that something what changes us is something dramatic, a shift in perspective. One thing I appreciated was how restrained the writing felt. King doesn't overcomplicate anything here. The language is clear, the pacing is steady, and there is a sense that he knows exactly what kind of story he wants to tell. It doesn't try to be emotionally explosive. It feels intentional in its simplicity. At the same time, I can say this is one of the most powerful books I've ever read. It didn't completely transform the way I think, and it didn't leave me emotionally shaken. Instead, it left me calm and reflective, which is a very different kind of impact. And honestly, sometimes that kind of impact is more subtle but still meaningful. Another thing that stood out to me is how much the story focused on human behavior rather than on the unusual event at its center. The unusual element almost faded into the background, and what remains are conversations and relationships. And of course, small acts that gradually gain importance. That felt very mature to me. It feels like a story written by someone who isn't trying to prove anything here anymore, but simply exploring thoughts. If I compare this to some of King's later novels, it obviously doesn't have the same depth of scale. It's not layered with multiple timelines or huge character arcs, but I don't think it was meant to compete with those books. It feels more like quiet interlude, something you read in an evening that stays with you in a soft way rather than a dramatic one. Personally, I enjoyed reading it because it didn't demand too much from me. It allowed me to slow down, it gave me space to think. And when I finished it, I didn't feel tension or sadness. I felt something closer to acceptance, which is not something I usually associate with Stephen King. If I had to describe the experience in one sentence, I would say that Elevation feels like a small, thoughtful meditation wrapped in a simple story. It's not about plot twists or deep mystery. It's about perspective, about what we choose to carry and what we might be better off releasing. Would I call it one of his strongest works? Probably not, but I'm glad I read it. It reminded me that something shorter, quieter books can still offer something valuable, especially when you approach them without expecting intensity, right? I'm really curious how this book felt to you guys. Did it leave you thinking? Did it feel too simple, or did you appreciate that simplicity? More generally, do you prefer Stephen King when he writes large, complex novels, or when he tells smaller, more focused stories like this one? Let me know in the comments below, because I think this book says a lot about what we expect from author we already know well. I took great pleasure reading that book. It took just a couple of hours to read it and enjoy it. So one more time, what do you think about this book? Let me know down below in the comments. If you like such kind of content, like, subscribe, see you in the new videos. Bye guys.